This is Rick Porter, Police News, and I am at City Hall for a civil service hearing having to do with the demotion of Lieutenant Michael Gray of the Galveston Police Department from the rank of lieutenant back to the rank of patrolman. This action has been taken by Police Chief Henry Porretto. We are in the hearing room, which is packed, and even the lobby is full of people. Apparently, most of these people are here in support of Lieutenant Gray, but we'll see as time goes along. We're waiting for the members of the Civil Service Board to take their place at the table.
Stand right here.
I'm the chairperson of the Civil Service Committee, and this is Alfeo Chirpea. He is one of the members, and Charles Stout is the other member. So we do have a quorum, and if we could call the roll for the record.
Michelle Bennett.
Here.
Alfeo Chirpea.
Here.
Charles Stout.
Here.
Civil Service Director Jose Sanchez. City Attorney Dorothy Palumbo, Assistant City Attorney Trevor Fanning, Police Chief Henry Porretto, Rich Navarro, Outside Counsel Chief, Greg Cagle, Outside Counsel, Mr. Gray, Lieutenant Gray, Abel Gray, and Ken Etty from Metro. Oh, and we got Don Glowowski from the City Attorney's Office. That's a rule.
Okay. We're here for the consideration and action on Police Chief Porretto's petition for demotion of Lieutenant Michael Gray, request for finding of probable cause in order to set evidence hearing on the merits of the petition. Chief Porretto.
Yeah. Thank you. Before you have a petition that was tendered prior to the meeting. I'm wishing to exercise my authority under the Civil Service Code to petition for a finding of probable cause for action of demotion. The petition outlines a snapshot view of some of the challenges we face, and the law allows us this option, and I'm requesting that the Civil Service Commission vote in favor of my petition for the proceeding to issue an order of demotion for Lieutenant Gray. That petition gives the lieutenant the right to a hearing. This is just a finding of a probable cause, and I've outlined that in the petition that you have before you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, Rick Navarro, I'm the Chief's outside legal counsel on it. What he's saying is correct. We're invoking the proceeding under Texas Local Government Code 143.054 relating to the motions. This hearing is the preliminary step required in that statute. Finding a probable cause to then proceed to the merits on an actual full evidentiary hearing in the case. So all we're doing today on behalf of the chief is based on his petition and based on his information that he would provide to you, the presentation of the petition and asking for a probable cause. I would also point out that so unlike a discipline case where the chief can just act unilaterally first and then the officer appeals to the commission or to the hearing examiner, the motion proceeding requires a threshold finding a probable cause first. It's been brought to my attention that Lieutenant Gray has already filed an appeal notice on this asking for a hearing examiner. So if the commission finds probable cause, then the next steps would be for your director to be asked to, under the rules, Chapter 10 of your rules, to take the steps to get a list of neutrals for a hearing examiner. We would schedule it like any other case. So the evidence case would be heard by another examiner. But we don't get to that step unless you all approve the chief's petition on the probable cause. And then unless Lieutenant Gray were to withdraw the request for a hearing examiner, the matter would be heard by an arbitrator, not this commission.
Right. It's my understanding that we're just here to determine probable cause, and that's it.
That's the actual rules right there, Commissioners. The second page is the actual rules.
Oh, it starts here?
Yeah, that's the actual rules for the petition. Mr. Navarro stated. After that is the request from Mr. Gray's attorney, requesting an outside party.
When you get to a point, Mr. Chairman, I elaborate on a few of those points.
Okay.
And after those 2 pages is the actual petition.
Okay. Just take a few minutes to review this.
That's what we're here for. Pursuant to the petition, you'll see there's 3 captain positions that are located at the top. Those positions are appointments, they're at-will appointments. Prior to my tenure as chief, one of those positions was an appointee, a new appointee, and one was an appointee from the previous administration. All 5 of the other lieutenant positions currently serve under my administration. The point that we're making here is this command structure has all had to adapt and change to an administration since July 8th of 2012. And they've all done that. We have an issue with Lieutenant Gray's problems in the circle and trying to be in the management team. In my view, I've taken a snapshot, just a snapshot of the last several months, and that's what you've been given in my petition to meet the probable cause affidavit, or probable cause petition. We have to operate under trust. We have to operate under knowing minimal supervision and that it can carry out orders and directions that we've given. When the captain gives an order, we expect it to be done, and we need it to be done, and not a million different excuses and different types of those things. These people, the lieutenants, are actually the middle managers of our organization, and they are actually where the rubber meets the road, making sure our orders are carried out in the field. We don't have that level of trust. I've issued that in the petition. I've taken the time. We want to be able to put on our case and evidence, and that's what we're going to do. We are not denying anybody due process. We want them to have a hearing, but we're asking you to find probable cause exists for us to go forward based on that snapshot view of those specific incidents. There is an opportunity for others to promote and advance that sees the same vision that this administration does and wants to go forward and can take the orders and issues and the vision given, and we won't spend all of our time dealing with somebody that's hampering the operations of the organization. That's the gist of the petition.
Do you wish to speak?
Just that in reading through the rules of the commission, and they seem to be pretty standard rules in terms of that we're not bound here by any kind of formalistic rules of evidence or rules of court, and that the threshold question of probable cause is just whether there's a reasonable basis to believe that the motion is warranted here. that ultimate decision will be made by would be made by you if the case were to be heard by you, or would be made by a hearing examiner, is what is requested here. So that would
But
be
you're saying it's not
a
going to be made
full-blown
here tonight?
evidentiary hearing. There would be cross-examination and witnesses and whatnot. That's not what we're here for today. We're just here to present enough to you to convince you that the chief is believes that he has a high-level supervisory lieutenant who is just not able to carry out the functions and the goals and objectives of the administration in the manner that he wants. A lot of this is the evidence would be related to just the internal workings of the organization, which are generally not available to the general public. They're just internal day-to-day things. And so that case would turn more on those sorts of things. The petition is designed to give you a preview of the kinds of problems that the chief has been having, and that he has gotten to the point where he feels that it would be appropriate to demote this particular lieutenant down. That would create a vacancy in the position, and then using civil service processes, someone else would promote up using those procedures. But that cannot happen as long as the position is held, and therefore statute requires that you go through this two-step process before any of that happens. So we're following the law on this, and at this stage today, we're here to request that an order be entered finding probable cause based on and then directing the civil service director to take the necessary steps to get a list of neutrals and get a hearing scheduled, and to do it in accordance with the requirements of the statute.
Lieutenant Gray, would you like to speak concerning the petition?
I was going to respond for Lieutenant Gray. And I did some short examples. I know we're not here for an evidentiary hearing. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg Cagle. I'm an attorney. I work for the Texas Municipal Police Association. I've been doing this for 20 years. And in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've never, and I'm going to maintain my decorum, I've never seen one quite this feather-legged, is the word I'm going to use. Because if I were a chief and I wanted to demote a police officer that worked under me that had been here since March 2001 and had worked his way up through the ranks, tested, became sergeant in 2006, tested, became lieutenant in 2010, and ironically leaving off where Mr. Navarro, or starting where Mr. Navarro left off, the people who were on the list to potentially take his place, if that were to happen, he conducted the assessment center for that. He was in charge of and has coordinated and run the assessment center for the eligibility list for the promotion to lieutenant for the last 3 years under the chief. So
can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
I don't want to cut you off, but we're only able to address what's in the petition. So
well, I'm only addressing what he got to say it, so I should get to respond to it, and you control it, so you can tell me no, you don't get to respond to what he says. But
okay, but try to keep it to just.
I will.
Okay,
thank you. In some of the statements, the hampering the operations of the organization, read through the petition and tell me if there's something in there you think somehow hampers the operations of the organization of the Galveston Police Department. It's a ridiculous statement. It's disingenuous. And if there were, in fact, something to support that, I think it would be in the petition in front of you, not he was raising money for the Special Olympics and had a goatee when he was wearing a uniform shirt. But because that is such a horrendous thing, I have provided you with some policies, no facts, because I understand this is a probable cause hearing. But I want you to think about it, because the legislature built in this probable cause hearing for demotions, but they didn't build it in for terminations, they didn't build it in for suspensions. It's the only disciplinary action in the civil service system where there's a gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper is you, and there's a reason for that. And I'll tell you, this case is probably the best example I've seen as a reason for that. But I want to walk through just the policies that I've put in the notebook, and I want you to look at those. The first one, and I tried to do them sequentially as they're brought out in the chief's letter, is the outside employment. He says that he gave Lieutenant Gray a directive not to use his personal vehicle when performing, he said don't use it when you're doing departmental business. And they want to say the ferry detail is departmental business. And if that's their position, then so be it. Tell him not to do it and he won't. In fact, that's what happened, and that's what the chief put in his letter. He did it twice, told him I didn't want him to do it, so he stopped. But he told the chief, he's like, look, the policy says the ferry detail is outside employment, not departmental employment. So I put the policy in here for you so you can see it for yourself. The policy is titled outside employment. I didn't interrupt you, Rick.
I'd like to lodge an objection.
Okay.
And then you can rule on my objection. I think we're getting into the merits of this thing at this point. We're going to start looking at policies and getting more into the merits. So, I mean, it is your call, but we're getting into the merits.
I need 5 minutes, and I let him have his time.
Can I interrupt you just a moment? Ms. Colombo, could you advise us on whether you think we're going off the rails?
The law allows the chief to file this petition, and you're setting your hearing within the four corners of this document, this petition. What the Attorney Cagle is attempting to do is bring in some outside evidence for you to consider. You can allow him to continue. However, since it's not coming from within the four corners of this petition, it is up to the commission to make the determination that it's outside. So he is attempting to introduce things that are outside the petition, and it's up to you as the commission to only look at the facts in the petition and make your determination for probable cause, and not to bring in outside documents.
Do you want to?
I just think they're getting convoluted more evidence aside from the petition, like you mentioned.
There will be, should the...
It's going to continue. With this, whether he's going to be saying the chief's going to be involved with this, but I mean, it's going to just continue like this, correct?
If you choose to uphold the chief's petition, then at the next hearing, this type of information would be able to be presented to go to the merits of the claim.
I have to say I'm just torn as to whether listening to what he has to say would influence our determination of the merits of the petition, or if it would be better to let it go to the next step where all information can be heard.
If that's the case, there's no point in having a hearing on our side. It would be futile.
We don't want to hear all the hearing evidence.
You know, it would be academic. He just files his petition, and you guys, and off it goes.
Well, I guess the problem, if I may, the problem is that I don't know what's in the notebooks there, but it sounds like it's material that I would expect is addressing the pleading, so the petition, and
So it's a point-by-point answer.
yeah,
to
I mean, I suspect that's what it is.
It's not. It's not a factual response.
And so, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna be asking questions. I don't know what it is, first of all, but I mean, I don't want to get into the background details of each of those things. I can assure you, and Mr. Cagle and I have done a lot of work together on opposite sides, and we both get to cross-examine people and over documents and things like that. And I just think once we start getting lost in the weeds on the details like that, that we turn this into something more than a probable cause hearing. That's my only. But it is within. We acknowledge your authority to decide where to draw the line. And if there's information there that you think will help the commission decide on the probable cause question, I mean, that's fine. But I'm sensing that we've got a lot of things to go through there, and
I would have actually been done by now, by the way, just as far as.
I don't want my silence to be taken as that I'm okay with turning this into an evidence hearing, because I'm not.
Can I ask you for a brief overview? Because I don't want to make, or I personally don't want to make this decision based on one side without hearing from the other.
And I appreciate that, and that's all, it really was. It was like maybe 3 to 5 minutes total is all I was going to do, and it was going to be just on what he has in the petition. The first one was about outside employment. The petition contends that somehow he was working departmental business and not outside employment. All I did was take his policy and provide it to you. His policy specifically says, under 5.2.1.1, second paragraph, outside overtime, and it talks about, and it's in the outside employment policy. It's clearly an extra job, just like working any other extra job. It's not departmental business, it's outside employment. If he wanted to clarify it, that's okay, he did. He stopped, even that's his own petition. The goatee, somehow the goatee was the end of the world because he was wearing a goatee with a uniform shirt at a fundraiser for Special Olympics. Just his uniform shirt, he wasn't even in full uniform, which the uniform policy would require you to be in full uniform. But you're not allowed to have facial hair if you're in full uniform. The pictures I have there is Captain Heiss standing next to, in the lower picture, the Internal Affairs Lieutenant, you'll see, who's also on the organizational chart, wearing facial hair in his Class A dress uniform.
I would object.
The last,
I would object to that. This introduction is clearly outside the petition. I would just caution the commission to accept facts that are within the petition.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
thanks. The fitness for duty, this concerns the reference to the officer in the petition. I don't even want to mention his name because that's his personal business. But that was not a misconduct issue. It was a fitness for duty issue. That officer had some problems with his eyesight. The chief was aware of it. It wasn't that the officer had done anything wrong or need to be reported to Internal Affairs. The policy that applies to that is fitness for duty. And that's what was done, was he was referred up the chain of command in accordance with a fitness for duty policy. And the last thing is that there's been some assertions in the petition that this will somehow be the end of the world, will affect the public image of the department. And I have just included what publicity has been created by their filing of the petition, not by us, but by the department's filing the petition and then the release of it by the city to the media. So it's not, we're not getting lost in the weeds. We're talking about a good employee's career. And I want you to look at the dates on the allegations too, because if you thought you had a lieutenant that was seriously affecting the operations of your organization, and he had wore blue jeans to a meeting back in January and had a goatee on his face in January, you wouldn't be sitting here in September telling the commission that the world's going to end if they don't just find probable cause and make this demotion happen. It would be certainly more timely than that.
Well, and I'm finding myself just really kind of chomping at the bit, wanting to exactly explore all the other side of it, which tells me that we're really getting ahead of ourselves.
I think so. I think we've pretty much exhausted the limits of this particular meeting. So I think we need to determine.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Commissioners, I'm Michael Gray. I'm here because of this. I want to tell you I became a police officer to help people, to seek the welfare of my community, and I believe I have done that. And I would appreciate you allowing me to continue. Thank you.
Madam Commissioner, may I? And we will allow Lieutenant Gray to continue his career as a police officer, but he's incapable of handling a supervisory position in this organization. That's the reason they did offer evidence, whatever you want to call it, that's evidence. We're not going to sit here and belabor it. It's a probable cause finding. We put forth probable cause. I think all those things we want to hear. We are agreeing that we want to hear them. That's what we're going to do. That's what we need to do. But it's about a supervisory position in an organization. And that's the basis of the petition. We will take our case to your commission or hearing examiner any way they want to go. But the point is, it needs to be there. That's the reason we filed the evidence, and thank you.
Thank you. Do you feel strongly one way or the other?
Pretty much, depending on rules and regulations, I'll look at it. And from what I hear them speaking of, this is just one step in getting to either a hearing in front of us or a hearing examiner to do what they were trying to do now and bring all the evidence to light. So my understanding is whether or not we approve the probable cause in order to let that go forward or adhere to something.
So do you feel that there's probable cause for it to go forward?
From the evidence that I've seen here, the first time I've seen it was when we received it just now, I see there has to be probable cause. I see probable cause in many different things, and it's usually based on rules and regulations. I mean, if it's a traffic ticket, it's probable cause. Any of it's probable cause. So I think it has to go for someone, either us or a hearing, in order to determine all the evidence that they're going to present.
I mean, looking at what we've just been handed here and looking over this, there's a lot here. And there's a lot of details to discuss, and it's not something you do immediately like this. It's something that's going to have to be heard. And no discredit to the police department at all. This is one thing about it. This is still a deal. You don't want to create animosity between the police officers, because y'all are doing something for the city of Galveston. Y'all sacrifice your lives, and besides the job here. And unfortunately, there's so much details in here. There's a lot here. I think we need to have more of a detailed hearing on this. The way I feel about it, there's a lot here. You have to move on to something. We're just going to get pretty involved with it. And he's got his, I feel for both parties, but you do have rules within the police department and in the organization here, and they know it better than we do, and who's supposed to follow the rules. Where you bend the rules and where you're more relaxed with them, that's something that they do, and it's not us. And we'll have to listen to a lot of that.
I feel like more of this information needs to be gotten out. I think at this point that it's, I don't want to say lopsided, but I feel like it's, I think that the case needs to be brought out and all of the evidence needs to be weighed, and it needs to be decided by more evidence than what's been presented here. So, are we in agreement that we would follow the chief's request?
This is just a process of continuing it to a hearing to give it fair for you to get the details out. I mean,
This is a determination of whether there's probable cause.
When you're